Hello and welcome to Management 6337, Organization Development and Change. As this introductory PowerPoint, let's go through a few definitions of organization development that are probably relevant for the course before we get into the textbook definition. To start off, let's go back to 1969 for Richard Beckhart's definition of organization development. The definition from 1969 is organization development is an effort planned, organization-wide, and managed from the top to increase organizational effectiveness and health through planned interventions in an organization's processes using behavioral science knowledge. Now let's jump forward to 1982 to Warner Burke's definition of OD. He says, it is easy to define organization development theoretically, a process of change in an organization's culture via the application of behavioral science knowledge. Now, what's on the screen is the definition of OD from the textbook. Organization development is a system-wide application and transfer of behavioral science knowledge to the planned development, improvement, and reinforcement of the strategies, structures, and processes that lead to organizational effectiveness. We can see the similarities between the different definitions is primarily that we're talking behavioral science knowledge. We're also talking about the organizational effectiveness. Those are highly critical that those are consistent across the different definitions. So, how are change management and organization development different? OD, from the perspective, is enabling the development of individuals and the organization itself through different interventions. Promotes the values of human self-determination, potential and growth, and concerns an organization's capability to solve its own problems and adapt to its environment. This is also where the definitions previously mentioned come into the health of the environment and the organizational effectiveness. That also helps organizations to develop knowledge and to change and improve. Moving to the change management difference, change management helps organizations actually implement specific changes, new technologies, or a new organizational structure. Values and practices are highly pragmatic, aimed to make change processes effective and efficient, and places importance on how well change is implemented and at what cost and speed, not necessarily whether the organization or its members have actually learned anything or have obtained the transfer. So we can see the differences between the two concepts of organization development and change based upon this past two slides. So for relevance of OD, OD helps organizations create effective responses and change capabilities in uncertain and changing conditions. Most likely, this sounds like work today that you're performing. We know that work is uncertain. Work is always changing. There is always a new project or a new tool or a new software coming into the workplace that we have to deal with. And change is constant through organizations. Life is also in constant change. So there's an equation between life of change and life at work that is always changing as well. The following definitions are the following categories of globalization of markets, new technologies, digitization, virtual reality, and managerial innovation through restructuring and new forms of work and organization. Those are all highly relevant and will be for the next foreseeable future, especially the bottom piece with the managerial innovation through new forms of work, which you can think about the virtual workplace. We are no longer confined by the barrier of having to go to an office to do certain types of work. Truly, office work still exists, where individuals still travel to the workplace 5 days a week for 40 or plus hours a week. But the reality is many individuals are able to do work outside of a traditional workplace and are able to do very effective work outside of the traditionally confining walls. So this is something that managers are having to struggle with for the past decade plus, but also going forward, it'll become more prevalent throughout the workplace.